Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, where we spotlight the leaders, innovators, and dedicated professionals who strengthen the quality of life for service members and military families around the world. Hosted by John Prue, a respected MWR leader with nearly 40 years of experience, this show explores the people, programs, and leadership shaping the future of military recreation and community support. In this episode, we're joined by Jon Cole, Director of Family and Morale, Welfare and Recreation at Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield. Jon shares his incredible leadership journey across multiple military installations, the importance of building strong teams, and how investing in professional development creates lasting impact. This is On the Front Line, powered by the DPRS Media Network. Let's dive in.
All right, it is 13:30 on Tuesday, 26 May 2026, and you are on the front line. My name is John Prue. As a host of this weekly podcast focused on armed forces or military recreation, we talk to professionals in the industry who are in some way making a difference in the quality of life and of the military and their families. Out there, you might be an MWR or morale, welfare, and recreation professional who directly supports quality of life programs for our military and families each and every day. Maybe you are or have been in the military and a user of MWR programs and services at some point, and we thank you for your service. Perhaps you're a business or organization or someone that wants to support our armed forces recreation professionals around the globe. You might just be a public parks and recreation professional curious about that thing called military recreation and what that's all about. Or perhaps you don't fit into any of those categories and you just tuned in. Either way, welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. All right, we have a terrific show today with Jon Cole, Director, Family and Morale, Welfare and Recreation at Fort Stewart, Hunter Army Airfield in Georgia. We are going to talk about his career and some of the good things he are doing down there. But we're also going to focus a little bit on mastering change and picking up skills along the way. And we'll talk more about that. As you know, we are part of an amazing media company called Daily Parks and Rec Show, or DPRS. DPRS Media exists to honor those park and recreation professionals out there, reflecting on the stories, highlighting the careers, and celebrating the real pros who are doing the essential work in our communities, and that includes our military communities. Special shout out to our producer, as always, Jovi, doing great things behind the scenes, pulling up graphics, doing transitions, trying to keep me in check specifically. So, Jovi, ahead of time, thank you for what you do. I also want to thank the founder of DPRS Media, Craig LeBlanc, for allowing us the opportunity to host this weekly podcast focused solely on military recreation and the great work being done out there. Side note, hey, just want to let you know our episodes are now being loaded up on the YouTube channel. Look for Daily Parks and Rec Show or DPRS. And then On the Front Line has its own playlist. I think we're probably three-quarters of them are already uploaded. So we do some post-production with that. That's super cool. And then also, almost all of our past episodes are loaded on Spotify, a great new way to archive all of our shows and episodes, and a new way for you to consume your podcast. So YouTube and Spotify, super happy about our archive for all of our episodes. And thanks to Jovi, she's very involved with that. All right, today's show sponsor once again is Outdoor Link. If you want to turn your entire swipe of a finger on an app, this is what Outdoor Link does. Outdoor Link builds smart cities connecting your park lights, splash pads, fountains, scoreboards, bathroom door locks, or anything powered by electricity into a simple app on your phone, tablet, or desktop that can be controlled from any location 24/7, 365 days a year. If you want to learn more about Outdoor Link, tune in to the Smart Parks Forward Show with Dave Ramirez on the second and fourth Mondays at 1:30 Eastern Time on the DPRS network. We're going to see a couple short promos right now, one on Outdoor Link and certainly one on JDP Services Management Consulting, near and dear to my heart. So with that, Jovi, why don't you take us to the promos? We'll be right back.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services, Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right, we are back and we're going to get going through here. So, typically, if you know how the show flows, I usually pull up a deck, a PowerPoint that we talk about great programs and things happening around the world throughout the services. It's just a highlight to demonstrate the awesomeness, I guess, of MWR and Armed Forces recreation professionals out there. So, little technical difficulties. We couldn't get the deck upwards and showing, but that's okay. We have audio files on Spotify, so you couldn't see the pictures anyways, right? So we'll just talk through it real quickly before I bring our guest up here today. First of all, what I wanted to talk about the presidential fitness test. It's out there. Many of the bases are out there. Matter of fact, a really cool post on the Armed Forces Recreation Network, part of NRPA, our social media platform. From Camp Pendleton, Marine Corps base, MCCS. So they were out promoting, but I know a lot of the bases are doing them. They're happening at the Dodea schools, and I'm just glad to see it back. It makes total sense that we're emphasizing this, pushing this through, and hopefully it is something that all the kids are interested in and focused on. I know it was a big deal years ago, and it's coming back, and it's great. It's for school age children from 6 to 17, and again, they're doing it through the local MWR. They're doing it through the Dodea schools, and it's being pushed out a lot of different ways. Just so excited to see youth fitness and health. Really comes down to health, focused on a little bit more. So super happy to see that, and that was the highlight there. Also, wanted to highlight the fact that the Warrior Games, adaptive sports program for injured, ill, and wounded service members and veterans. It's been around for a long time. Matter of fact, I had a chance to help out with the 2017 games when they first got off the base in Chicago. That was interesting, but such an awesome time to see those healing power of sports and what it does. So those are coming up in San Antonio. It is open to the public. It's in a public area, so easy access and a chance to support pretty close to about 275 athletes from the various services. Matter of fact, the post that came out from the Warrior Games was highlighting the captains from each one of the services. So, of course, Army, Air Force, the Navy, I think they're partnered up with the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, and then SOCOM has its own team as well. And typically, we usually have some uh, folks from military in Britain and or Australia. I don't know that for a fact, but typically they do participate in our Warrior Games, or at least come down to support. And again, those games are happening on June 13th to 21st down in San Antonio. So if you are down in that area, check it out, root them on. I know Fisher House does a tremendous job bringing their family members and caregivers down to support them, and that's an awesome experience. So compliments to Fisher House for what they do, and certainly those athletes. And again, the healing power of sport goes a long way. Okay, and then a couple things highlighted for our guest today. There were some great pictures. I wish you could see them, but awesome quarterly professional development day from FMWR team at Fort Stewart Hunter. Jon Cole, who you're going to see here in a second, who's the director there. But not only was it training and development, it was a little kickball, it was fishing, it was a whole lot of fun mixed in with training, and it caught my attention right away. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But what a great way to bring in training, but also a little fun and camaraderie, so to speak, team building along the way. But yeah, work hard, play hard, I think is the concept, or at least that's what I got out of it for sure. And then I did have a plug for they had the Murph Challenge going on this past weekend, I believe, or this last past week, and they posted some things. So we'll have John talk about that as well. But a lot of those Murph challenges or similar type challenges on this past month is around Memorial Day is pretty common out there. And then, as I mentioned last week, on last Wednesday, I was representing the board of directors at NRPA and had a great opportunity to be at Capitol Hill talking to representatives. Saw two congressmen, two senators, and then got a chance to catch up with an old friend, colleague, Pat Fallon, Congressman Pat Fallon from the 4th District of Texas. Got a chance to see him. I haven't seen him in probably 15 plus years. He hasn't changed a bit. He was very generous with his time. So, some pictures of us in his office, out on the porch overlooking the area where the inauguration is held. And then just the team from NRPA made up of recreation professionals, board of director members, staff members from NRPA, and then we had quite a few people from the Business Council, major vendors who support our industry that were out there doing good things. It was one of the largest crowds they had. So good work promoting, making sure the stateside funds for Land Water Conservation Fund, and then we were certainly pushing some new initiatives related to youth sports as well. So really productive day, hot day. It was about 95 degrees out there, but productive day in DC advocating for parks and recreation. And of course, just to wrap it up, usually show the QR codes, but Armed Forces Recreation Network, we get these information and these posts on our social media channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then they also have a monthly meeting, happens on the second Wednesday each month. I think June 10th is the next meeting. And they've got some good things. I think they're going to be focusing on outdoor recreation opportunities in the near future. So check that out as well. So with that, Jovi, why don't you bring up our guest, and I'll properly introduce him. I am the oddball here that did an internship and stayed at one base for 34 years. I am the oddball. Take it. Generally, in our business of Armed Forces Recreation, you move on to move up, or you move to other jobs for a number of reasons. Our guest today has been in a few different locations and has even worked for other services. Go Navy! But you know him, and you know you're getting the best every time you hear his name. By the way, he's also a former Armed Forces Recreation Network chair, like myself. So he's also tied into professional development at a national level. And another, oh, by the way, he holds a bachelor's and two master's degrees from Troy University. So let's bring on Jon Cole, Director, FMWR Department at Fort Stewart, Hunter Army Airfield in Georgia. Jon, welcome. Welcome to On the Front Line.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me on today. Looking
All
forward to
right.
it.
Yeah. So before we get rolling here, let's talk a little bit about that quarterly professional development event, which you saw me react to it as soon as that post went up. I thought that was awesome. Tell me about that. Is that a thing all the time, or just one of the quarters you do fun stuff, or how's
So,
it all work?
okay. So, it started, I don't know exactly when it started. Couple few years ago. Amber Eisler, who's our deputy director now, was previously our CYS coordinator. And it started with professional development days within CYS, right? So, get 2 days off a year, closed during like a Donza, training holiday. And they had, so like what you saw the post of last week, it actually kind of pales in comparison to to some of the other events, right? So it started, and they had all the CYS staff, which is like 375 CYS professionals, and they would do they do these big elaborate training days. So they do training, but they have fun with it. So one of them in October is like a themed event. Like this past year, it was actually, I think historically the fall one is like a circus event. They may mix it up a little bit, but there's like a spirit stick you can win. They do skits, like it's crazy. And then in the winter they do another one that's a like like a suit and tie, like formal event that they do at the club, at one of our clubs. So we basically took that ball and ran with it. And part of it is we joined all of we invited all of MWR to participate. So now instead of just being the CYS division, it's all of MWR, which is about 700 employees. And then the other thing that we did was we made it quarterly. So we can, the standard is the 2 days off a year for CYS, but you can get an exception to do 2 more for a total of 4. And we just stood up a really robust new employee recognition program. So we wanted to kind of like wrap all that together and bundle it. So got approval from the command to basically shut down all of MWR 1 day a quarter, and this is what we do. So
Yeah.
we're keeping the other 2, and the 2 new ones. One is we did kind of like a field day type, event. And then we'll do another one next quarter where we're looking at having it almost like a casino kind of setup, like games and that sort of thing. But we always try to do, we try to mix it up where there's enough going on, for everybody. So the next one that we do will have like that kind of like game type, flavor to it, but then it'll be at one of our other fitness centers. So we'll also have like some athletic competitions available for staff who want to participate in that.
Yeah, yeah. I remember back in the day, it was so hard to get all of the training you needed to get in for your staff, specifically in the child and youth programs or youth services, as you guys call it, that you do have to shut it down. And I'm so glad the command is supportive of that. And obviously the parents, they figure it out as well. But it's so important to keeping your accreditation and one, just recharging the batteries, hopefully. And you guys do a nice job of that. It's not just, hey, let's knock the training out. Let's recharge the batteries and get people motivated and have a little fun along the way. So super cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome stuff you're doing. Hey, this recognition program you're talking about, is this Army driven or is something you guys created locally?
It's local. So, I've been at several different installations, and basically I've every one of them has had some level of awards, program. So basically I've picked little pieces that I like from different ones, and kind of created our own. Nothing super unique. I think the only thing that we do here that that has not been borrowed elsewhere is part of the because part of it is like formal awards, right? But then part of it is just kind of like ongoing recognition. So the one thing that I think we've added here is, well, actually, I think I might have added this in the past, but we do it here. And that's every division chief has a specific number of 59 cards that they get them on a monthly
Oh,
basis,
yeah.
with the expectation that they'll be given out to staff.
Yeah, that's awesome. For those non-military folks, 59 is 59 minutes. It's can be authorized or delegated down to a department head. Technicians. All right. Looks like we lost each other here for a second, or at least on my end. So, all right, John, we kind of skipped into a discussion right away, but hey, I want to find out, besides your bachelor's and 2 masters, which you have, you are way smarter than I am, I think. I'm just going to go out there and say
I
that.
don't know about
But
that.
walk me through your professional journey, because you have been at a couple different locations with across different services, which give you a broad perspective. But kind of tell our audience what your career path has been, your journey per se.
Well, journey, I think journey is a good descriptor for sure. So I started in recreation as a teenager, right? And like everybody was a lifeguard as a teenager, you know what I mean? But I never
Yeah.
stopped. A lot of people they'll be a lifeguard and then they'll go to school and they'll make the decision to come back afterwards, right? My path didn't really go quite that way. So I love lifeguarding. Became a WSI about the same time, and just really enjoyed it. got swim team certification, started coaching, became an instructor trainer for the Red Cross. And before you know it, I'm still in school, and I end up getting an aquatics manager position, not with the Army at the time, with the YMCA. And I was going to school. I actually wanted to be a sociology professor. That was like that, that was
Really?
my goal back in the day. But I really just fell in love with recreation management, kind of, aquatics at the time, but just really holistically, because anytime you're in a recreation environment, you get to dabble, right? Which kind of takes me to the next kind of phase, really. But I ended up just getting a call from. I grew up in Columbus, Georgia, which is where Fort Benning is, and
Yeah.
it's hilarious. Like it's actually a regular talking point that I have with people, about the lack of knowledge and awareness of everything that goes on military installations, because I was probably the most qualified aquatics person within like a 2 hour radius of Columbus, and I had no idea that Fort Benning had 6 pools on it. Like I just didn't even know. So I got a call from a friend at the Red Cross who said, "Hey, there's this vacancy. You have to go apply for it." And I was like, I've got my 2 YMCA pools, and I'm like, why would I do that? Yeah. So I get the job at Fort Benning, and I remember my first award ceremony there. One that was really impactful from an employee recognition perspective, because it wasn't like a big fun day, but it was still, it was nice. I'd never seen anything like that working off post before. And I think that was the day that I was like, hey, this is my career path. MWR is what I want to do. Now, I didn't really know where that would take me, but that's where I started with MWR. So I made a lateral move from Benning to Rucker, Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is where my wife's from, Dothan, Alabama. And I made that move, although it was lateral. I made that move kind of very, very consciously, because I met some people there through networking, which obviously everything we're talking about, with AFRN and even the podcast, right? It's education, it's getting to know more, and networking is a big part of that. So through networking, I kind of found out that, hey, if I went down there and took this position, because it was not as busy. They have several facilities, but it was not Fort Benning's a monster for aquatics. I mean, it's a big operation. But I knew that I was going to get some professional development that I was not going to get in my current role. Both for they were just getting ready to start up Warrior Adventure Quest. They liked that I had personal experience, like in a whole variety of recreational areas. So I went down there and took that position. Stayed there longer than I anticipated staying there. I thought, because I went down there for professional development, and after a couple of years, I was like, thinking that I would go ahead and make a move. But I ended up staying longer because I met the now wife and mother of my children. So we ended up staying there a little bit longer. But eventually it was like, okay, hey, there's opportunities in MWR. There's a lot of opportunities. There's opportunities to provide even more for my family and all those things. So then my wife and I talked, and we were like, hey, it's going to be a lot easier to move up if we move over to do it. So that's where I actually went to the Navy, went to Naval Air Station Meridian, Mississippi, which was, again, somewhat, it was pretty intentional, because it was in proximity to home, that we could still travel home relatively easily. Sometimes you make a move to a big place because you want that big place experience, but sometimes you take target of opportunity. So Meridian was a real target of opportunity for me, and I ended up promoting there and became the director there. So that was one of the doors that opened. I was there for the longest I've stayed anywhere, though, because I was there for about 7.5 years. So I went there as basically the sports and fitness chief, and then became operations manager, which is to non-Navy folks is kind of like a hybrid business and recreation chief / deputy position.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like I said, I was the director there for by 3 years, I guess.
Yeah. So that was the time frame in which you got involved with the Armed Forces Recreation Network too, if
Yeah,
I'm not mistaken.
it
Yeah.
is. Yep.
And you ended up being a chair. Did you do 2 terms or one?
No,
Just one?
I did one, and we had some overlap. We did overlap because Liz basically did 2 right before me,
That's what it
and
was.
we kind of
Yeah.
like piggybacked on one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few of us out there that had to do 2 terms.
Yeah.
But no, I know you were super involved, and I think that's where I first got a chance to meet you. Just pausing there for a second, you had done a couple gigs with the Army. You make this move over to Meridian. You fleet up to be the MWR director. So, was there a huge difference between what you were doing with the Army and Navy, or
No,
just more terminology or
no, I mean, hardly even terminology. I hear that a lot, right? Over the years of many times, normally framed as excuses. Oh, but it's just so different. It's nah, it's the same. There's
delivering?
so
Yeah.
little. Like, I mean, the biggest difference is like the what happens outside of your office. The different like the different names for service members. That's the biggest difference. I mean,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
using a different financial system, but you're essentially entering the same data pretty much. Some of the
Same
coding is framed a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're still
same
taking care of
metrics,
service
same.
members.
Yeah, and families. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just curious. I believe you 100%, but I wanted to ask the question because I think sometimes there is that tricky, or people just don't want to make the move because they think there's such a huge drastic difference.
Yeah.
It's one thing to come from Parks and Rec world into here, especially at a certain level. It's hard to do. Same thing for us to go at a certain level into the Parks and Rec world might be a little bit challenging
Oh, for sure.
at certain levels. But from within Department of War, we all pretty much run the same thing. We all fall under one big blanket called the DOTI 1015. So
Yeah.
ultimately, it's the same thing. Interesting. So I'm sorry I abruptly cut you off on your
Oh, no,
journey.
good.
Keep going with that journey, please.
So so eventually we're in kind of small area. The opportunities, opportunities are only there's only so many of them at small installations. And I mean, just to be completely transparent, the bigger the base is, the more likelihood of the pay increasing quickly. So, was looking at opportunities, and something came open at Fort Hood, Texas. So for those who don't know,
Oh,
Fort Hood is massive. It's considered a mega, one of 4
huge,
mega installations in the military
huge.
and the Army, like 40,000 troops. So made a move over there, which was technically, I mean, I guess one step down on the totem pole, but I got a raise out of it, so I was good. So so I went there as the community recreation officer, so community recreation division chief. Stayed there for a very short stint, just 1 year, and ended up moving over to be the MWR director at Fort Polk, Louisiana, which
Yeah,
then turned into Fort Johnson, Louisiana, and then turned back
oh,
into Fort Polk, Louisiana.
yeah. The
So
name changes. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, so I was at Fort Polk for 2 years, and got a fantastic opportunity to go work at Installation Directorate Readiness, ID Readiness, which is basically a regional headquarters. So the Army went away from geographical regions, I don't know, probably about 10 years ago, and went to the type of installation you're supporting. So Readiness supported the ForceCom installations. That changed again a little bit very recently, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, so I went there supporting 24 installations as the business and recreation chief. Again, did a lot of analysis, a lot of staff work, supporting an SES director over the region. Did a lot of work with the different installations. Anything from scrubbing like financials, whether it's like stuff like action items that were coming up or down the chain. And then, anytime that there was like a new directors, new division chiefs, provide all sorts of assistance to them, talking about, translating like little lingo differences. One of the guys that I talk with regularly came over from the Air Force, and he was like, okay, what are the relevant regulations for the Army that I need to make sure that I'm up to date on, and all that kind of stuff. So, so I was there. I was only there for a year. Went there thinking that it was possibly going to be the last stop. And then, just circumstances changed. It was a largely teleworking position when I took it. That turned into not a largely teleworking position. And then some other travel increased. So, I mean, it really kind of, that takes a toll from a family perspective. Have 2 young kids. So when Fort Stewart opened up, jumped at the chance, because this is also the closest that I've been to my family in the my parents and my wife's parents in the last almost 20 years. So fantastic opportunity, phenomenal area, my home state. So here I am 8 months later.
Yeah, big program as well. That's awesome. So we've got to take a little break. We're going to do a couple more promos. We're going to get back, and I want to talk a little bit about some of your lessons learned along the ways. We kind of touched on a couple things. We'll do that. But before we go to promos, I want to ask you, because you are from Georgia, you've pretty much had your whole career. I consider you from the South, I guess, would be fair statement. So you got to be a college football fan. So who's your team? Is it obviously Georgia?
No, actually, no, it's not. So I mean, having being a Troy graduate, I keep track of Troy and I watch them, but they're not SEC. You got to have an SEC team. So Auburn War Eagle. Yep. So
okay.
I grew up like 45 minutes from Auburn. I actually grew up. Columbus is one of the very few places in Auburn or Georgia that, one, that you can actually be an Auburn and Georgia fan both. But it's so split between, it's like thirds Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia. But my parents went to Auburn. My wife went to Auburn. One of her brothers and her mom went to Auburn. I'm kind of stuck. If I wasn't an Auburn fan, football season would be miserable for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we're going to go to break. Jovi will take us away, but we'll be right back to talk more with Jon Cole.
It's not just water. It's responsibility. It's leadership. It's not just drowning prevention or water safety. It's life. And every day, aquatics professionals make decisions that save lives. Because aquatics is more than swim lessons. It's community, it's creativity, it's impact. For over 30 years, aquatics hasn't just been my profession, it's been my life. I've seen the challenges, the pressure, the grind, but I've also seen the power of great leadership and what happens when communities come together. This is where education meets entertainment, where real conversations happen, where aquatics professionals come together to learn, lead, and grow. Because aquatics should bring people together. This is Aquatics Life, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
This episode is brought to you by SDSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. SDSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
All right, we are back. John, need to ask you. You gave us the path of your journey and some of the reasons you made the moves. All good stuff. What are some of the critical lessons you learned with some of those moves throughout your career path? I think professional development, you just get stronger and you mature as a professional in this industry. Those are pretty obvious, but are there key areas where you found yourself kind of like, oh yeah, this is a lesson learned and you took and ran with it, or it really helped you in the next position?
Oh, absolutely. Now, my first one, and this is going to sound so silly and so cliche and so like obvious, um, but I really I think it's in many circumstances I think it really needs to be intentional, and that's to be nice.
Mm.
So like I mean, when you're in a leadership position, the way I say it, you have the power of the pen. You don't need to have the power of the voice also. That doesn't do anything for you. If anything, it has negative consequences, right? So I got a call, my first director position. I got a call, I don't know, 2 months in, from the regional director, and I'm, when I hear he's on the line, I'm like, there's nothing, like going on. I think he's just gonna call me and tell me how great of a job I'm doing. And he goes, hey, John, how's it going? And he says, hey, do you have your PD handy? Like, I mean, yeah, I can pull it up. So I pulled it up. He goes, hey, I want you to read that last line to me. And I don't remember exactly like verbatim how it's worded, but it says at the end, it says uses an exemplary amount of tact. And he was like, I'm just gonna need you to work on that one for me. And I mean, you talk about like, wow, that just happened. And it's not that I was, like went out of my way to be nasty, but or anything like that. I mean, it wasn't like a situation where I had like investigations or anything like that. But
Yeah.
it was just, it had gotten around that when things need to be done, I made no qualms with telling people that things needed to be done. Which, on one hand, accountability is extremely important, right? I mean, it is. And I don't say this to say that, at any point, feedback should be misconstrued for unkindness, right? Sometimes people take feedback a certain way. But the point is just the like please and thank you, and like goes a long way, and just being intentional with how you're saying things, not just what you're saying. So I think that's
And
important.
no, that's a great point. I think we all start, even younger managers, and I'll say, hey, if you don't have 10 years of supervising, especially when it comes to a large staff, you're still a rookie at this. I don't care how many training courses you can take, you still learn by experience. So I think we've all gone through that where we could have used better tact and diplomacy in certain situations. And if you're self-aware, or somebody puts it in your ear, or it comes back during an eval that maybe this is the only area you need to work on, then eh, and I've had some of that, it's like, oh, okay, focus on that, be more intentional, think about how you're saying things. um but yeah, you could go the exact opposite way too. And I think we've known supervisors or seen supervisors where nothing is pushed to getting things done, and that's a much worse scenario. So I'd
Yes,
rather take the tact and diplomacy, do better on that, but you need to hold people accountable, and
100%.
and great learning lesson.
Yeah.
So what else? What was you got another one or two
Yeah,
that you want to share?
sure. Yeah. have a leadership philosophy and live by it.
Mm.
And I will say, and this one has really struck me as having a need for it. I've done a lot of interviews over the last couple of years, like a lot. When I like last year, I did 16 interviews that were like at the NF5 level. And the amount of times that you hear either a direct question about leadership or a question where leadership should obviously be included in the answer. And just I think there's a need for formal leadership training, really just kind of like in the enterprise. Um, you know, I do, as we do leadership professional development sessions. I do those regularly. I've done them for several years. And that's kind of one of the questions that we talk about when we talk about leadership and communication is kind of like, describe your leadership style. And it it gets a lot of blank stares or, kind of like maybe half answered questions. So it's something that I definitely recommend. If you can't describe your leadership style or your leadership philosophy in detail, then it's probably worth, some level of kind of like research and contemplation to understand exactly what that is.
Yeah. Well, and also the difference between management and leadership,
Yeah.
because there is a nuance there, and it's not necessarily you may manage, but that's more technical, and leadership is not something everybody is given, so to speak,
Yeah.
or don't have those leadership skills, and that's fine. It's not necessarily for everybody, but if you have that opportunity, good trainings out there to kind of set the bar and make you understand. So that's good stuff. Um, got another one?
Yep. If it's easy, it's probably not worth it.
Oh,
So
awesome,
like
awesome.
with that being said, right, like you do have to take some level of analysis into the decision making. Uh, and also just recognize that everything can't be perfect at once, right? Uh, sometimes the easy button is the answer, and it's the easy answer because you don't have the bandwidth to
Yeah,
take the time, to do something. But I mean, more often than not, you probably want to put the effort into it to make it a better quality than may otherwise be.
yeah. I wrote that one down. That's a good one. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. We all get into recreation for various reasons. You had mentioned possibly sociology teacher. Didn't you mention that? You might have gone down that path. Anyways, most most of the people that I know love recreation, love to do something. So what do you do for fun? What's recreation for Jon Cole these days?
Uh, Hunting, fishing, and golfing. And
Perfect.
that's my personal pleasure. But um what's always been a pastime for me, so like basic youth sports involvement. And I say always because like before I got married and had kids, I coached youth soccer and youth swimming, uh back in the day. So when I had kids, that naturally became kind of like a part of it, right? um Although as of this year, this is the first year that I'm kind of sidelined, and because now we're talking like travel sports and school sports and
Oh,
stuff. So now I'm spectating more than coaching, but uh, I would say still equally present.
yeah.
um, but yeah, hunting and fishing and golfing. Hunting and fishing I've been into for in some capacity for most of my life. Golfing, I picked up uh, about 15 years ago. Fell in love with it. So, and then I got um, this one sometimes gets kind of like funny looks, but I got my kids involved in all three of these things at a really young age, uh, so that we could do things that I like to do, which right or wrong, it is what it is.
That's
But
you're
yeah.
working it in. That's a good way to do it. That's leadership. That's
Yeah.
leadership. Hey, you've had a lot of experiences. Give me one or two things you're most proud of to date. You still have a good career going ahead of you, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good things happening. But to
Um,
date, give me one or two items that you're most
this
proud of.
is this is the easiest one. Being invited to be on this podcast.
Okay, really?
No, I mean, there's I don't know.
Winner,
There's
winner, chicken dinner.
so there. I mean, I think that there's always things that strike you equally. Kind of like as a career progresses, right? Um, Early on for me, it was I got an Army Recreation Employee of the Year back in 2011,
Mm,
and that was like I mean, that was a big one that stuck with me for a long time. It's kind of like one of my like this is great, this is like super proud. um Becoming a director, well, really becoming a chief, and then when I became a director, those were big ones. But um I something I really think, and this is kind of a cop out of an answer because it's kind of ongoing, right? But kind of at this point in my career, which, as you said, I mean, I'm just I'm on year 19, right? So I mean, I've still got plenty of time to go, but at this kind of point in my career, haven't been a director for about a decade now, and I do think that when you work at senior levels, it makes you kind of like look at things differently, right? You're looking at things at echelon, at an organizational level, at an installation level, um, and between that, and then also having kids, and my kids are 9 and 12, and so had a little bit of experience with having kids now, uh but really those kind of like those two kind of qualities or good characteristics have really made me look at things from as far as being proud of things. It's the success of others that I've noticed over the last, couple few years has really started to mean more to me, than necessarily than the things that I've done. And that doesn't matter if it's like the professional development day that you mentioned at the beginning. Like when I see the team come together, like whether it's a big event, a big concert, or a day like that, and see being part of the leadership of hundreds of people literally coming together to do something cool. And
Yeah.
that's a proud moment, right? I got a call last week from somebody that I worked with in the past who just got a director position, and I mean, and of course I would be excited, but I was like, even later on, I was like, wow, that really hit me more than getting those sorts of calls 10 years ago. Like it super proud to have been some small part of that person's journey. So those are the
Yeah.
things that I think I'm the most proud of these days.
Yeah, you couldn't said that better. I mean, it does change through your career. We all can be a little too self-absorbed early on as you're trying to stack up things to better your career, and then all of a sudden you do get to a point of a leadership where all of a sudden the accomplishments of others mean that much more. Yeah, it's all goodness because one, you're hopefully helping or at least allowing those opportunities for them to flourish, and then to see them flourish really does mean something. So well said on that, for sure. um are there any current program challenges, anything that keeps you up at night right now? That I mean, there's a lot going on in our world in general, but any current challenges you're fighting off and trying to conquer?
I mean, I work for MWR, so
Dumb
there's
question.
always
Dumb
program
question.
challenges, and there's
We don't
always
have
things
enough
that keep me
time.
up at
We
night.
don't have enough time.
Yeah, I mean, so specific to Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield. And for those who aren't aware, so we have Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield are technically one garrison, but two cantonments, about an hour apart. Hunter Army Airfield is in Savannah, Georgia proper, and then Fort Stewart, the larger of the two, with about 15,000 troops, is like an hour west. But
Yeah.
we've had a lot of turnover. We've had a lot of turnover in the last year, so we're rebuilding the team. Some of it is people shifting into different positions. I mentioned earlier, our deputy was our child and youth services chief, so we were hiring a new child and youth chief. Our recreation, we had a recreation division chief that retired about a year ago, and basically our entire like all the division chiefs have been in their job for like a year or less. And then we have an all new branch chiefs in one of the divisions. So just a lot of rebuilding. We've created some new positions that the installation has never had before. There's a lot going on. That's a challenge, but it's a challenge in a good way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely
systems
a
are,
definitely a time suck. It
yeah,
just is. That's not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. And you, even in your position, are intimately involved in that because the building of the team is critical. Even if
yeah.
it's not a direct report, it is pulling from you as you're doing that. I've been there, so I know
Mhm.
exactly what's going on. That's awesome. Hey, want to spend the last couple minutes that we're going to be on talking a little bit about Armed Forces Recreation Network. Obviously, being a past chair and your involvement, there are premier memberships across all the services. We have tons, big time numbers. I think it's somewhere like close to 1,700 Armed Forces Recreation professionals. Don't know that all of them are very active, but they have memberships through NRPA, and we have this network, which, quite frankly, as you know, no other organization has it. We internally in DoD don't even get together like that and communicate across the services. Like, yeah, we all maybe get tagged for a working group that's cross-functional service or pulled into OSD or whatever, but for the most part, there's no ongoing communication like that happening. So, from your perspective, why is NRPA and or the Armed Forces Recreation Network? Why is there goodness? Why is this a good thing? Or do you still think that?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, AFRN bridges the gap across the services, right? It makes us like, I mean, we're a significantly larger collective. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, whichever one you're with, like I mean, I think holistically it makes us like three times. Well, if you're with the Army, it makes us three times larger. If you're with some of the other branches, it may make you 10 times larger, right?
yeah,
Um, but I don't know. It's like I said earlier, it's not apples and oranges between the different branches of service. I mean, they're very, very, very similar, and the ability to reach out and ask questions and get feedback and see what people are doing in another area when you multiply that much larger, there's so much value in that. I mean even just getting outside of your comfort zone of your own installation,
yeah.
right? We sent two of our senior folks to another garrison about a month ago just to go look around and see how they did things and kind of deep dive into some of their systems and processes. I mean, there's I mean, I just we could talk for half a day or more just about the value of that, right? So that's where the goodness is of AFRN. Now, I will say though that I think that there's a significant detractor from sharing those experiences and ideas. And I think that's just people's bandwidth and the operational tempo of working in military MWR. But I will say, because the one thing that we haven't really talked about today that is always a hot topic for me to talk about is systems and processes and technological advances. And I honestly think that is going to help over the coming years. I think that is going to help us kind of bridge that gap even more and get people more involved, because I think people are going to have a little bit more time to, and I think because like sharing data is going to become that much easier.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, and maybe we'll have you back to talk about that because the whole area of technology and where we're going today and how this is going to forecast over the next couple of years is going to be really interesting. And armed forces recreation, spot on. It needs involvement. It needs people. I know they're going to put out a kind of a request for people that are interested in getting involved with the network leadership. They need to find the next chair elect as we come up on the next conference here at the end of September in Philly. So for those that are listening out there, if you want to get involved, if you're at all involved with the MWR or FMWR across the services, an opportunity to get involved with the network, really kind of figure out how to reach and get more people engaged, which is a real struggle right now. I mean, it's good we have the membership. Little concerning the engagement levels, the same group, the same smaller group that engage with the meetings, and maybe it's the way we present things. But talking to former network chairs like yourself and a few others, I'm sure we'll get a chance to figure it out. But there is goodness in there, and we are working a couple initiatives with NRPA, being on the board of directors. I've had a little bit of a voice for military recreation. We're also trying to figure out how to connect outside the gates. Not all of our military families live within the fence line and who are pretty connected with what's going on with MWR. But if you don't live on the base, it's a little harder to reach those folks. And what can we do with the local park and recreation departments and create partnerships, or at least create awareness to support those family members and active duty outside the gates itself. So all good stuff coming up. What was the biggest takeaway you had from being a chair for that 1 year? Anything you remember directly? I still see files you loaded up in the library. You were on a mission to
Yeah,
load that library up on
I just
NRPA Connect.
we tried several we started several initiatives and just kind of threw stuff on the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah,
I think the one thing that stuck the most was creating the Facebook group, though.
yeah,
That's really yeah, because initially we were told, I heard that we weren't supposed to have one. So I caught Haley at the NRPA, and we kind of talked through it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you can do it."
yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I think
almost 1,000 members. Hint,
yeah,
hint for anybody out there. Just ask. If you're in the business, we'll say yes. But yeah, that is a good way. I mean, a lot of posts, a lot of reposts on there, and a way to see what everybody's doing. If nothing else, that's goodness. It would be nice if we had more talking points on there, but sometimes Facebook's just easier to see what's happening,
yeah.
and that might be the best format.
Yeah, I think that though that like what I said earlier about the people just op tempo and people's bandwidth
That's always a
being a
struggle.
detractor. Yeah, I think that was that some of the initiatives that we tried that didn't really come to fruition. We've also even tried within some of the services with the same effect, and that's where I think the technology is going to be helpful. So
Yeah, yeah. And it comes to what interests your boss should fascinate you type mentality. So it always takes leadership to want to be engaged and involved, and that'll help trigger things. So, well,
yeah,
John, thanks so much for jumping on. I know we've been trying to coordinate this one, and I'm so glad to have you on an episode. I want to bring you back sometime on some more specific items when we talk about technology or some of those other topics that we'll be challenging or we'll be handling over the summer months. So, again, thanks again for you popping on. Really appreciate it. Your amazing story, your journey in the profession, and many more years to come. By the way, 19, if you stick to my standards, you have another 20 years to go. So you're only halfway there right now.
Hey, there you go.
All right, everybody. We will be back next week, same time, same place for another great episode. So on behalf of all of us at DPRS Media and On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, I'm John Prue, and we are out here.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.